Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Very happy to be with you guys. So tonight I will be talking to you a bit about Doctolib very quickly, because I'm sure you know some of it, I hope at least. I will be talking also about me very briefly. And more importantly, I will talk about what I call kind of a new breed of CTO, meaning the CTO that goes a bit outside of the typical box we'd like to put CTOs. And why do I want to talk to you about that tonight? Is because I believe that now, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, it's going to be even more important for all you guys who are in technology or would like to, either CTOs or want to become CTOs in the future, to consider those aspects. You might not notice it when I speak in English, but if I was to speak in French, I have a Canadian accent, so I'm Canadian. But for the rest, I'll tell you more after. So about Doctolib, just very quickly. So Doctolib is a 5-year-old, a bit more now, 5-year-old business. We've been founded in France first, and then we've expanded to Germany. It's a company that is employing today 850 people, so we're not the small startup anymore. We consider ourselves more a scale-up, if you want. But we're growing really, really fast. So when I joined Doctolib a year and a half ago, a bit more than that now, we were 275 people. So it's been a huge growth in a few months, and we'll talk about that a bit later. We've raised about 240 million euros since day one, with a big last raise recently. And we joined the Unicorn Club for what it means. I mean, honestly, the media are speaking more about that than we speak about it internally, because it doesn't change anything. The money is in the bank, and it doesn't change our life. It's just we have more money to do what we need to do. We have a good bunch of investors, international investors from France and also from abroad. So what is Doctolib's mission? In a few words, basically our mission is to make the healthcare system more human, connected, and efficient. We do that by doing two things. On one side, we provide tools for the health professionals to better organize their time, spend less time doing administrative work in their cabinet or the hospitals, and spend more time having more medical hours to give back to the people. That's the mission number one. And on the other side, of course, we provide tools for the patient to manage their health. First, to take an appointment, to be able to do a teleconsultation, or even to manage their medical information. And we'll speak a bit more about that. So a few numbers very quickly. So we have roughly 90,000 doctors that are working with us today. We're adding about 3,000, 3,500 doctors every month. So still a very high growth pace in France and Germany. We have 20 million patient accounts, so people that are using the service, Doctolib service. And we have roughly 35 million visits per month, if you want, people engaging with our service on a monthly basis. On the service side, so you see obviously from yourself the ones that are using Doctolib, and I hope there's many people using Doctolib in the room. When you make an appointment, that's the tip of the iceberg of the product that you see. It's basically you search for a doctor, you make an appointment, and you go there. And you can manage, basically, if you want to change it, or if there's a slots that opens up, you can take it. But the big part of what we do is the tools we provide to the doctors. So we provide doctors with, I would say, an agenda on steroids. So basically a tool that allows them to manage their time, to decide that on Monday they want to see people with broken arms, and in the afternoon they want to see people that have back problems. They want to see 10% of new patient, and the rest needs to be a recurrent patient. It's a tool also for them to move a patient through the health system, to referring, let's say, a generalist that refers directly to a specialist. It's a tool also for the doctor to communicate with the patient, to say, I won't be able to manage that appointment, so a doctor can move the whole set of appointments he has in a day, and all the different appointments are done by themselves, which in the past it was basically secretaries, admin people that were doing that. And we also offer telehealth, which we launched in January, which allow a doctor to see a patient remotely and do the same, I would say, medical act for portion of the medical act to do it remotely. We've been growing very fast, and now at this rhythm, if everything goes well, we're going to pass the bar of 100,000 doctors working with us by the end of the year. And why I share you that information, because obviously our problems now and the things I will describe might be slightly different than if you are just starting a business tomorrow, right? It doesn't mean that what I'm going to share is not important, I believe, for you to think of, just as a caveat. Make sense? So who am I? 44 years old, Canadian. I've been writing code for 36 years, which means I wrote my first code in the 80s, which makes me very old suddenly with saying that. So I'm a techie at heart. I've been basically in tech as long as I can remember. My father was a computer science teacher, so obviously when I was very young, I had the first computers that are things that look like computers, and I've been in that since day one. I've been an entrepreneur, founded the first business, failed, founded the second business with other people, success. And then from that, I've been doing different things. From early days, I would say, ventures, so working with VCs, funding companies, assembling tables and everything you have to do when you're an entrepreneur. And I've moved up the chain, working with private equity-backed companies where more money was coming and growth was less, I would say, acute. Done through IPO, so I went through this process also. Growth, slow down, M&A. So I've done pretty much every single cycle, I would say, of what you can expect in the life of a CTO or in the life of someone working in technology. And through that, I've been also working in different countries. I've lived and worked in 6 countries, US and a few countries in Europe. And I'm in France now, as I said, for a year and a half. And what has changed really over the course of the last 22 years, which I've been living from technology, is that I've been moving more and more from pure tech role to operational roles. But what's interesting is I didn't drop the technical role, with a lot of what some people do actually. That's what I wanted to share. So for me, why I've done that and why I think you need to think about doing it, maybe not all of you, but some of you, is because I believe that we need what I call CTO enablers. It's people that actually take technology, understanding, and actually apply it to the rest of the businesses. So typical role boundaries, so excuse me because I'm not very good in designing slides, so I've made the little picture like that. But typically the way it works, and the way I've seen it work for a long, long time, you have on one side people in the business naming sales, marketing, operations, finance, and basically they're coming with some weird stuff that the tech people don't really understand fully, I don't really care that much, to be honest. And basically, we think that once they have kind of figured out the business model, when they kind of figure out the product, now we're going to do something which makes sense, we're going to make it real. That's where the real stuff happens, and then we build technology. And sometimes, in the middle, we have created kind of a product organization to translate that. I'm obviously exaggerating massively for the sake of the argument, but what I mean is that a lot of time, when I speak with technical people, tech people, they have no clue what's happening on the left side, or they have very superficial understanding of what's happening on the left side. And obviously, you would never become a CFO if you're a CTO, you would never become a CMO if you're a CTO, but I would argue that you need to understand quite a lot to be able to do your job properly. So for me, the CTO enabler equation goes like this. First, you need a CTO that understands technology very well. You need to have someone who lives and breathes the technology that can make the decision about, what technology to adopt, understanding what's available now that was not available 5 years ago, someone that can assemble the teams, someone that can put the right processes, hire the right people, inspire the right people to come into technology. That's CTO 101. If you don't have that, then you're not a CTO, right? That's a given. The second part for me, you need to understand very, very well the business model of your company. And what do I mean by business model is where the money is going to come from, who's going to pay, why are they going to pay, and what's actually the equation of profitability of the company, right? So, okay, people will come, they'll pay €25 per month, okay, but are we going to make money out of it one day, today, maybe never? That you need to understand very well, and I'll explain why after. You also need to understand the business processes very, very well. What I call business processes is that what these guys on the left side of the screen are doing day in, day out to perform their job. How does operation works when they serve the customer over the phone? How does marketing decide to invest X million on the TV, decide to do SEM, decide to do SEO, or decide to do the advertisement on the bus stops? You need to understand that for sure. And you also need to understand from a financial perspective some of the basic concepts of how a financial equation it gets assembled. And why you need to understand that? Because this is the only way you're going to have really a big impact on the organization. If not, you'll be stuck behind that little wall that I've put as a picture on my slide, and you'll be limited to basically taking inputs from what the business wants to do and you trying to find a way to execute it. And honestly, I would say that many people are stuck behind that wall, not because they don't have the intellectual capacity to do it, because if you are engineers, I would say you have the ability to actually understand pretty much any single processes and any single concepts that can be rationalized. That's for me a given. But you need to obviously show an interest to that to be able to grab it. So for me, if we say technology is an enabler for the overall business, it means that anything that is happening in the business, in your company, or in yours to be company, could benefit of having technology being injected in it. That's my hypothesis. And then, obviously, someone needs to be able to link what are we trying to do and what technology is available or what technology can do to make it happen. And for me, there's only one person in the company that can do that, which is the CTO. It's much more easier for the CTO to do that than the other way around. You'll never see a CFO, I mean, I've never met one in my life. You'll never see a CFO coming to you and say, okay, I have that problem which every month we cannot actually capture revenue from 10% of our customers, and I have that great idea on automation, how we're going to actually capture that. It does not happen. It will always come with, we have a big problem, figure it out yourself. But you know, when they do that, they are cutting themselves options because they don't understand what technology can do, what technology can bring. There was a question before about saying, if your CTO and CPO mixed together, are you not limiting what the business or what the product would like to do? I would say it's the total opposite. Because if you actually master technology, you will think about options, you will think about capabilities that technology can bring that you wouldn't be able the other way around. And finally, I asked the question, so then if it's not the CTO, nobody would do it, and I am a strong believer that the businesses that are truly successful, think about the large company that you know that have been truly successful. When you talk about their CTOs there, I'm talking about the Amazon and all those, you have guys who are not only techies, they're also really much able to step into the understanding of their business, and more importantly, to influence it. So, for me, there's a few key business processes that a CTO needs to master. If you know, that's the basic for me. If you want to be able to have more impact than what you just do in technology, a few business processes that needs to be mastered. The first one is the product prioritization. It's probably the closer to what we normally think about when we are in the CTO job. But what I mean by product prioritization is, what is the ROI of what I'm doing? Why are we going to do this before that? Is this the right order we should be doing it? Understanding the business aspect of the prioritization. Not just because it's easier to do, it's faster, it's an enabler. Understanding really how the CEO would look at the prioritization himself. You need to have the same level of understanding, same knowledge on that. And it's not very complicated, to be honest. You need to also, for me, understand the whole customer journey from whatever you want to sell, whatever your company offers as a service, sell, or you would want to sell. You have to understand exactly what the customer journey goes through from the beginning all the way to the support. Meaning the acquisition of the customer, the support of the customer, the service you provide to the customer. You need to understand that to be able to think about where you could inject technology to make it better. You need also to get into the sales and marketing, which, I mean, it's, for a long time I thought that this was probably the less structured and science type of work that you could do. You just had to be very good, you know, on the relational side. You had to add a great contact. You have to add a great personality to sell. But today, when you look at the way sales and marketing is being done, there are tremendous opportunities to automate it and make it more efficient through technology. And that's something that if you're not injected in understanding the processes yourself, you'll not be able to help them. And that's probably the worst. Finance and HR. I mean, finance and HR is also today the places where the people that are doing it are less equipped to use the technology to do something unique or better than what it's been done for the last 25 years. In many aspects, finance is still done the same way today that it's been done when I started my career. And HR, yes, okay, we have LinkedIn, we have automated campaign and all this, but it's still very limited. Lots of things that can be done in technology to improve the way HR is done, to engage with people, to understand the satisfaction of our people, to improve it, right? And you have a role to play there. And last but not least, a business process, that's one actually that has been brought up before. you also need to be able to understand enough in the M&A, I would say, to be able to make the right decision in make, buy, or build decision. So if you want to build something, you should always be able to think, okay, maybe I would like to buy this service, or instead of building it, how am I going to evaluate this? You're not going to just evaluate it from a pure tech perspective. Is it better tech than what I can build? Is it going to be faster? But understand a bit, okay, what is it going to mean in 3 years in terms of licensing? What is it going to mean in terms of scalability? What kind of dependency are we going to create ourselves towards that service that we might buy in the future? So you need to get a bit into the mechanics of the M&A. Plus, as your companies will be successful for sure, you'll have one day to participate in M&A yourself, buying other companies. Better to understand why we buy your company, for which reason, and how we integrate it. So for me, those points are the, I would say, minimum points you need to kind of add to your competency toolbox to be a very good CTO. Just to give you a concrete example, at Doctolib, the way we work, we have a team that we call DBS. People in France, they like acronyms. There's acronyms everywhere in Doctolib. So it's called DBS, it's for Data and Business Scale Team. The role of this team is only to basically provide acceleration services to the business teams. So it's a bunch of product manager, engineers that are spending all their time just understanding how the sales are working, how the marketing people are working, how the ops are working, and trying to improve their processes. And they're working hand in hand with them. And obviously, I manage this team myself, but I'm also very interested in the processes of the sales and marketing themselves. So I am part of the discussion when it's time to change the way the marketing team does customer engagement campaign, as an example, because I want to bring also innovation and technology flavor to the way they think about the way they work. That's my COO part of my job. So, concretely, to help maybe you think about it, how do we make the transition from a pure CTO to a CTO enabler? And that's been my experience, the way I've done it. Maybe it's going to be different for you. But the first thing you need to do, you need to break the paradigm that CTOs are techies that are not interested by anything else than technology, that just want to code 24 hours a day, and they're happy doing that. If that's your interest, you're not a CTO. You're a very good engineer. You might even become a great principal engineer in a large company, but you're not a CTO, and you will never become a CTO. Because the role of the CTO is not to spend his hours coding all the time. Even if you're in a very small company, and the CTO needs to code half of his time or 3/4 of his time, you still need to think about everything I've said. Because the company will not be successful just writing code. It will be successful if you can sell the product, if you can serve the customer, if you can actually make it financially to the end of the month. Very, very important that you understand that that's what's expected from a CTO for a successful company. So if you break that paradigm yourself, if you announce yourself, hey, I'm interested in that topic, you'll get introduced in the conversation. Because what we have to fight against in technologies, people say, wow, this is the techie guy. When I don't understand something about technology, I'll go talk to him. Obviously, now I'm interested. Rest of the time, you will not be looped in most of the conversation. So you have to be, I would say, verbose about the fact that you're interested in that. Second, get into it. Get into how sales, marketing work. I mean, honestly, when you've been able to do all the studies you've been doing to become an engineer, it's not that complicated. You will never become a top expert, but you will be able to understand the basics very, very quickly. You just need to be interested and get into it. And the best way I've done it in the past is that I've been spending physical time with the teams. I've been spending time with the marketing team to say, okay, when you calculate the ROI of a marketing campaign on Google, explain to me what it means to have an ROI of 1. It seems very simple, but I had no clue at the beginning what it means. It means that you're going to get as much money as you've spent. And is it okay if we have an ROI of 0.8? And the marketing guys say, yes. Oh, then I don't understand. Explain to me again. So you have to really sit with them and understand the basic concepts of their business. Same thing on the sales side. On the financial side, and that's even more important for me, because that's the thing that I was, and I think most of us are the least interested in coding into. You have to understand very well the concepts of revenue, gross margin, EBITDA margin, cost of acquisition, long-time value. depending on your business. You have to be able to make those differences. And honestly, there's 7 or 8 concepts. There's no more than that. But if you actually understand those, you'll be able to have a decent conversation with the CTO, with the CFO, with the board, around the table, and you'll be able to say, you know, guys, we are spending 30% of our revenue in technology. That's too little. We have to spend 50% of our stage of development. I need to have 20 more heads because that's the benchmark to be able to become the next Stripe, the next Amazon, or the next whatever. But if you don't use those concepts, that's the language of the people you speak to, I mean, you'll be fighting to get one head here, one head there, and they will not understand why you need it. You'll explain that you need to develop a new framework, whatever, they don't really care, right? So you need to speak the language to have an impact beyond just technology. And then, that's the key thing. When you start looking in sales, marketing, operation, you'll be amazed to see how everything is broken before technology looks into it. And you'll find plenty of opportunities to make it better. And then you apply your engineering mindset to it, and you say, okay, how can I automate that? How can I replace the repetitive tasks? How can I have more data to be able to manage it in the future? And you'll see it will come to you like this, because actually those are problems that would be immediately fixed if there would be a pure technology problem. It's just we never look. We don't look at it. And but doing that, you realize it's part of your job. You're not actually stepping over anyone else's job. Nobody will be upset because you'll bring value. And personally, my job today is much, much more fun being able to move transversally to the whole company and helping them on every single topic than if I was limited to just, you know, my product teams, my technology teams, my feature teams, doing stuff which I wouldn't be even sure that has the biggest impact on the success of the company at the end. So I'm not replacing the CFO, I'm not replacing the CEO, I'm not replacing the CMO, but I'm really a partner for them to make sure technology is a tool that they have that other CFOs, other CEOs, other CMOs don't have. And that's, I think, part of the success of what we have at Doctolib today, and part of the success that you might put in the companies you're going to have in the future. And last but not least, I said it a bit quickly, but if you do this yourself, people that work for you, that are pure technologists, will say, what the hell, what is he doing? I mean, he's reading sales books, he's reading marketing book. Does he wants to leave the technology team? You have to explain to them that it's not only your job, but it's also their job to get the basic understanding on those concepts. If they want to be sparring partner with the product team or with the marketing team, they need to have some basic understanding. So help them a little bit grow their knowledge on this and help them realize the impact they might get if they start putting their engineering mind to those problems. Voila. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
So far. I wanted to know what percentage of your time do you dedicate to talent acquisition? A few questions, actually. So what percentage of your time do you dedicate towards hiring? Are you involved on a granular level? Are you involved in big hires or on all levels? How do you keep good talent? And then fourth question is, when you're working with a small team, how do you design a career path to enable your engineers, your development team, your product to stay, really?
Okay, so that's multiple questions. I'm going to try to take them in the right order. You tell me if I forget something. So I spend roughly 25% of my time on recruitment. So every quarter I establish some sort of a time matrix of where I spend my time, and I readjust it based on what's needed in this quarter. So about 25%, which means that I spend about half of it into interviewing people directly, usually at the my direct reports level or the level below, or for some specific roles on the business side, because obviously people, they come to me now as I understand enough about marketing, sales and everything. I'm also involved in some of the recruitment. Right now we're recruiting a CMO, and I'm actually on the interview loop for the CMO. And the other part of that, the second part, is I'm really involved into the mechanics of the hiring, meaning the whole journey of a candidate that comes to us from when we contact him all the way when we recruit him. And I'm very involved in designing that process and improving it all the time. That's where I put my engineering mind, trying to be as efficient as possible. And it can be small things like to make sure that when the candidate come to Doctolib's office, there's always a room available for the candidate and the one who interview, and you're not like running around in the office trying to find a room. So, things like that, dedicated elements to make the process flawless. I removed the bugs, if you want, from the recruiting process. That was first and second kind of question. I don't remember the third one. Can you remind me?
I think it was more about retaining talent,
yes.
And dealing with turnover.
Yeah. So basically, even if you're in a very small team and you recruit people, so you cannot offer a very big career path, right? If you have a team of 10 guys, you're not going to create 5 levels, and it doesn't make sense when you're 5. But even from the beginning, what I think you can do is to make sure to expand a little bit the responsibilities from the tech side, but also from the people side. As an example, as you're going to recruit a lot of new people when you're a small company, you'll need to have a kind of mentor for the new people that will come. You'll need to have people involved in the recruitment process. So basically what we do at Doctolib now is a bit different, we're a bit bigger, but at the beginning we were putting the people with the more, I would say, skills into those processes as a way to say, you've reached the level where you can be part of the recruitment process. You can be a representative of the mindset we want to have at Doctolib to filter the right people joining us, the right engineering mindset, as an example. So, I mean, there's ways to involve the people into already some sort of career path advancements before you have a large career path. Today at Doctolib, we have 5 levels, and it's enough for the size we are. We are 150 people in tech and product, and that's enough. When we'll be 500, probably we'll need more.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you go back to your slide where you present your team, please?
Which one?
With your team.
This one?
Yeah.
That's one team, huh? The DBS team, yeah.
Okay, yeah, the DBS team.
Yeah.
Could you go deeper in, like,
yep.
let's say, the marketing lead generation? Like,
yeah.
What's the process, what's the workflow of
okay.
putting all these teams together?
Okay, so very concretely, this team, Market Lead Automation, their job is what? Is to generate lead doctors that would like to join Doctolib to make sure that they have a way to reach us, okay? So this team basically will do things like a B2B website to generate lead. We'll do marketing campaign to say, hey, by the way, Mr. Dermatologist, your colleague GP has joined Doctolib. Maybe you should consider joining us because you're working together. So they're doing things like that. They're trying to do a lot of things related with automation. This team doesn't do it alone. They do it with a data analyst that is in a data analytics team, which crunch the numbers and give them all the figures they need to make the right decision about who should we target, what segment, in what order, and all that, which is part of the DBS team. And they also work with a product dev team to build the tools that are there to build the tools to basically create that automation. And it's actually the whole group of people that work together to define what is going to be done. It's not like the marketing lead team that are saying, hey, I think that we need to do a B2B website with this form and all that. No, they actually work together to crack the problem. Okay? And the rest of the team, very quickly, sales strategy, well, it's a team that basically provide the tools for the sales team. Make sure that, manage all the Salesforce automation because we use Salesforce for sales and all the tools to target and actually follow up the sales cycle. Marketing customer engagement is basically once we have doctors that are customers of Doctolib, we need to keep talking to them. But we have 90,000 of them, so it's completely impossible for us to call them. So we use technology to basically give them information, as an example, by how many appointments we've brought to them online this month, how many no-shows they saved because they weren't Doctolib. So we basically provide them information and keep them engaged with us to build a product. And last but not least, we have basically a customer service team, like anyone, and we have a team that work all the time with them to make the onboarding of a customer on Doctolib easier, more automated, and to provide them tools to help them, as an example, change their answering machine to say, instead of saying you're at the Dr. XYZ, you can find me on Doctolib. So we build technologies to check that the doctors have really changed their message, and that actually to decide who we need to talk to them to advise them on the best way to leverage the service. So they don't build customer product at the end. They build tools to actually enable the rest of the teams.
Hi, I'm pretty curious to know because Doctolib is working on a sector which has legal constraints and strong legal constraints. So how far do you combine these legal constraints with the innovation, and then how do you decline that in terms of technology and so on? I'm curious to understand that.
Well, that's interesting because linked to what we discuss, you need to have a mix of business understanding, technology understanding, a bit of legal understanding also. So basically rule number one for us, and it should be the same for you, is you never break the law. Rule number one. Don't send your CEO to jail, right? It doesn't help. The second thing is that it's the case for us at least, but maybe it's going to be the case for what you do. Sometimes we are doing things which is first time done. You know, we introduce a new service as an example for the doctors, and it's a new service nobody has never done before. So the legal framework is not very clear. So we work very closely with the legal team to say, okay, how can we help the legislator help us develop what we need to develop, but do it in the right way and in the legal framework. So we work very closely, even with the legislator. We work in the medical space, so for us it's really, really important. And the data privacy is key. I mean, it's at the core of what we do. So basically, we always balance that, right? We never do something that would break the law, of course. We never do something that would put at risk any of our customer information. That would be also really, really bad. And I would never commit to that personally, so we would never do it. But at the end, we also try to push the boundaries where their boundaries are not well established. We try to understand with them, okay, legislator, tell us what we do when the police call us and want to have an information about a patient. Well, I mean, it's never happened before. There was no information before on that. So you see, that's the type of information, that type of thing we reflect on.
So when you've been working in technology all your life, how do you do to get to understand those other jobs? So about marketing, sales, finance. I mean, I feel it's not just about asking questions. Obviously, you're very curious, but I feel like at some point you need also to get courses or find other ways to gather knowledge and build knowledge to indeed get there.
Yeah, I'm sure you could read, I've read books about finance. But if I remember the first time I got into it, to be completely honest, I think it would have been very difficult for me to just open a book on business valuation. And obviously those books are really, really boring. And actually go to it and say at the end, oh, I know how it works. So yes, training classes or reading could be good, but I'm a strong believer that if you understand it very specifically in the context of the business you are in, you're going to have a better chance of understanding it. You'll have people that will give you kind of the essential, and there are plenty of concepts that you don't necessarily need to be able to do what you do, and it would be more efficient. So I would really say you go to the more, I would say, open-minded people in the sales, finance, marketing, and you say, listen, I'm a good engineer. I have no clue how marketing works, really. I understand the concepts, but I have no clue. Explain to me A to Z, and you'll learn a lot in a few hours, a few days doing that.
Thank you.
Hi. I just checked your LinkedIn profile, and actually you're both CTO and COO of Doctolib. So my question is, so do you share the same vision as Jean's, according to which like the CTO position will eventually merge with like more or less like a more business-oriented position? And also my second question is, do you think that ironically becoming a CTO pushes you away from technology?
So I don't believe that the CTOs will become business people. I think we still need to have technologists because the technology is something which is the true enabler, as I said. So if you're not the one who really understands it in the business and push for it, who will do it, right? So we will end up with all business people and no technology specialists. So I think the core needs to be someone who is interested in technology, someone who keeps an eye on technology and what technology can do for the business, that's for sure. It doesn't mean that you cannot actually do a bit more and step on the business side. On my side, I've been doing it for a long time, right? So that's why I can combine now P&L responsibilities and at the same time discuss about, are we going to go on Aurora, on AWS, or are we going to stay on Postgres, right? Because I've been doing that for long enough. But I think that even if today you keep the CTO title and the only role of CTO, you can still have that large impact that I've mentioned. You don't need to become the COO of the company, or you don't need to become the CPO necessarily. I think there's questions at the back. Oh, and you were, just while you passed the thing, you were asking, is it getting me further away from technology? Obviously, a bit more than when I was only doing that, because there's 24 hours in a day and my mental bandwidth is limited. But the truth is, and that's something that Jean mentioned also, the technology changes at a rapid pace, but the concepts remain quite stable for a long time. So you don't need to relearn the same thing you've been learning, year after year. So it gives me bandwidth to actually be doing both.
And actually, my question was a direct follow-up of what you just said. Do you find it challenging to stay up to date to the fast pace that technology is evolving? And if you have things that help you keep stay on the top levels of information on technology evolving, how do you do? So
Doctolib is a technology company in the medical space, but we're not building rockets going to the moon. We're not SpaceX, right? So it means that the technology, I would say, cutting edge technology that we need to master is very different than what the CTO of SpaceX would have to do. So for me, I find the time to stay aware of the technology trends and everything. I also have good people in the team around me to push ideas and to bring ideas forward. And actually, with experience, the only thing I know is that I can differentiate this is hype and this is going to die in 6 months. When everybody talks to me about a technology that I've never heard, and that suddenly everybody wants to use it, it's a good sign that it's going to be a problem. When I keep hearing about the same technology 2 years after, then it's time to start paying attention. So I don't want to be necessarily at the cutting edge of the most recent thing that came, because if there was really something that is a game-changing thing that would truly change, the way we operate and would make us the best company in the world, it would come my way. Right? The rest of the time it's progressive iteration, and you need to let I believe the technology mature. If not, you're doing technology for technology. And some businesses are doing that. They are pure R&D companies. That is not Doctolib, and this is not most of the service-oriented companies that you would work for, I would say.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. How do you distribute your time now between technology and other, marketing, and how does it change between now and the time where you were working on a seed stage company?
So that's a good question. So I would say I spend roughly 40%, 40 to 50% if you add the product aspect to it in pure technology topics. And the rest of the 50% I would spend in, we discussed about hiring non-technology people, as an example. I would spend with the marketing, with the sales team. I would spend with the financial team, the rest of the team. And when I was part of a seed company, so I founded a company in the late 90s that I sold to Expedia. And at that time, obviously, I was spending more time on technology, maybe 75%, let's put it like that. But I was already spending time on topics that were not purely technology related. So it probably moved from a quarter to half of it over time. And I think it's more related with the size of the company, right? Because we have different problems when you're 5 than when you're 1,000. But the mindset of actually being interested in technology remains the same.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, good evening. Congratulations on the presentation. It's very marketing for CTO. I'm really impressed. Quick question, do you talk to final customers, to doctors? Do you find the time to talk to them? Because at the end of the day, it's where you can maybe gather the most valuable information.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we have a very strong, I would say, philosophy to actually work very closely with the doctors. So when we launched telehealth, as an example, we spoke with 500 doctors to understand, okay, if we were to develop that technology, how would you use it, right? How would you would currently use it in your practice? And understanding also the challenges of using a tablet versus the desktop to be able to do the video consultation, all this. And part of my time is actually to go and visit the practices with the sales guy, because we do basically new sales for new doctors, but we also go and do follow-ups with the doctors to make sure they're satisfied. And I spend regular times. I would say I would go maybe 3 times a month, or 2-3 times a month, depending on the month, where I would go and I would attend a sale for a new doctor, or I would actually speak with a doctor which is already installed to understand what are their problems. And actually, it doesn't take that much time, especially in a big city like Paris. We have so many doctors close by. You take the scooter, 15 minutes you're there, half an hour after you're out, and as you said, you've learned a lot. The other thing that we do, and that I do, is I also listen to customer services call to understand why people are calling and how are we actually serving them. And that's also, believe me, a great way to learn about improving the product and also improving the processes on the customer operations.
Yeah, my question is very related to this. Going back to this slide, your role is to align objectives and destroy them, obviously. So what's your input day to day? Like you get feedbacks from customers, you listen to what they want. How do you inject all these learnings in all this organization of your team?
So I'll speak 2 minutes about the way we organize product. I think it's going to answer all your questions and maybe follow-up questions. So basically, we don't have a typical top-down roadmap approach. The way we work is that on a yearly basis, we make strategy. This is where basically the big directions we want to go, okay? Every quarter, we review where do we allocate our resources towards those problems. So we say we're going to spend 20% of our staff on telehealth. We're going to spend 15% of our staff in patient health management, whatever it is. That's what we decide on a quarterly basis. From those, we define KPIs that we give to the team. And you say you need to increase telehealth doctors on telehealth by 20% for this quarter. Let's put it this way. We give that to the product team and the engineers. We let them run with it. Okay? And what we do on a monthly basis, we meet every single team. And we say, okay, explain to us what you've been doing in the last month, how it's been impacting your KPIs, where have you been successful, where have you failed, what do you intend to do to change it, and we revise if the KPIs we had set was good enough or not. We never discuss if the button should be blue, red, or yellow. This would be a terrible usage of my time and a terrible usage of the product guy who sits in front of me would say, hey, why am I here? If the CTO needs to tell me to do it this way, or the product guy would have to tell me, probably we wouldn't have the right guy in our team, right? So that's the approach we take, and we believe, and that's what I believe personally, that's the only way to scale from 15, 20, 60, 100 feature teams working like that. If not, impossible to follow up through the whole process as you scale up. When you have one feature team, 5 guys at the very beginning, you can be more opinionated, and it was the case at Doctolib. The CEO was much more involved in the decision of the color of the button and all this, but today that would make no sense.
Let's say you come to learn that a market-changing feature is developed by either a new startup or another company. How would you approach it? Would you try to emulate it, but in your own way, or is it a kick in the butt to innovate and move away from this specific feature? And would it change your day-to-day work, or at one point would you just trust your system and just move along?
Yeah, so first I would expect that the teams that work with me would actually see it also, because obviously we track very closely what are the other offers on the market, what the other tools are offering and the features. And if I try to understand your question, if basically there's something that would come that could not fit in any of those KPIs that we set for ourselves, would we react to this? Would we change the strategy? Would we try to maybe follow it or copy it or ignore it, right? I think it would depend very much on the feature. It's too conceptual to really give an answer, but what I would say is that in the time allocation we give on every feature teams, 80% is KPI driven, 10% is security related. Impossible to drive security improvements if we don't allocate time for it. So we say whatever you do, you can have a KPI to improve telehealth penetration in Germany, but you still have to spend 10% of your time on security topics all the time, because nobody prioritizes it if not. And we keep 10% for things that are a bit, like you say, things that are coming from the left side, not seen before, and we need to react to it. So we keep time to basically prioritize things that would not necessarily impact the KPIs, that most of the times are things that would kick off new product teams, new feature teams, because we would do some sort of a proof of concept, we do an experimentation, we see there's something there, and then we might spin off a new team with that mission and those KPIs to achieve it. Any other questions?
You bought Mon Docteur, the company. I don't remember when, but it was not so long enough. Since you're involved in so many business side, I assume that you were a big contributor in what happened. Can you talk a bit about this story, about the challenges you faced regarding technology? Because getting them on board meant, I guess, a lot on this side and on the business side, and how you handled both.
Okay, that's a good point. So yes, so we bought Mon Docteur, which was the number 2 player in France for appointment, if you want, in last summer. So we bought it in July last summer, and we completed the integration in September, and we decommissioned the platform in December. So basically, what we've done is we've been doing super fast. So I've made many mistakes in the past doing M&A, and one thing that I know for sure is that you need to go fast in integrating teams. So we spend much more time into talking with the people in Mon Docteur, understanding what they wanted to do, where they were seeing themselves in the new project, how we could leverage their talent. We've been training people at Doctolib extensively on how to welcome the Mon Docteur people, because culturally there's always differences between companies, right? So we needed to help them be welcoming and understand that we were coming from different perspectives. And we've been going as fast as possible. Not letting people remain into I'm Doctolib or I'm Mon Docteur. We've been going as fast as possible. And honestly today, and it's been a long time now, for me it's a long time now, I couldn't tell you who's Mon Docteur and who's Doctolib. And there were still 170 people at Mon Docteur, so it was a significant amount of people joining at the time. And on the technology side, as the product, we're very close. We basically looked at both and we said, okay, which one should remain? We don't need two. Basically, on one side, we had 44,000 users. On the other side, we had, 8,000 users. It's going to be much more logical to move 8,000 to 40,000 than the other way around. We've learned all the best practices that were in the other product, and we've decommissioned the Mon Docteur tool. And yes, I was deeply involved in this to help the business understand how we would do the migration. But as you could see, the migration was very low tech. There was no complex API integration, keeping the front end, integrating the database. No. I mean, at the end, we said, okay, we're going to do it simple, efficient, fast, because at the end, the challenge is never technological. It's always people. And if you have to keep people to manage their technology for 1 year, 2 years, knowing that it will get decommissioned, it's a terrible motivation drag. I mean, there's a lot of bad things you can do in that. So better to go fast and to expedite it. So that's what we did. I think there was one last question here. Yeah.
Thank you for the great talk. About the enabler mindset, do you try to push it to the whole company, or at least the tech teams? I mean, for example, is a tech developer working on the marketing side? Does he work? Can he work? And does it happen that he works on, operations, or does he switch?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, we have principles in tech. So we have established 5 principles that we communicate. And the first principle, a guiding principle, something that we want everybody to think about all the time. The first principle is user first. Whatever you do tech for tech, you don't do technology for technology, you do it for end user. That user could be someone taking an appointment. That user could be someone in HR that needs to recruit people. Right? So really important. And then we do, I don't know the word in English, vie ma vie. So we basically allow people to go do the job of the other guy for half a day or 1 day and sit next to them. So we favor that a lot. One concrete example, 2 weeks ago, we had people in the team for operational excellence that went to the call center, if you want, sat down with them, took some calls. I've seen, the problems that the agent had, and they said, what the hell? I mean, it makes no sense. They're copy-pasting thing here and there. They're going in the, it was crazy stuff. So they found 5, 6 fixes they could do immediately. They did it on the spot, and it was released the day after, finished. So they probably improved, massively the daily life of an agent with doing very simple stuff. And the agent, of course, was very good at doing the manual work, very diligent, very rigorous. But it's a pain. I mean, it's you cannot push that on a human being if you can automate it, right? So that's how we do it. Good. Thank you very much. I hope it's been useful for you. Thank you.